Hello everyone, my name is Rohan Bhatia and I am an Indian chess player. I welcome you all to my YouTube channel and this is the first video on my channel. So please do watch this video till the end. Today I am going to tell you some interesting thing about chess. Chess in my opinion is the world of C, the world where unique and amazing discoveries are being made. And to explore this world, you need to develop a thorough understanding of the game of chess with the help of concepts and principles. Like in school or college, if we want to understand anything, we first need to understand the concept of that thing and then apply it practically to the possible extent. So today, I am going to discuss the interesting concept of chess, and that is spin. And don't worry, I will be discussing this concept with the help of few practical examples, or in terms of chess, we say it as puzzles. A pin is a phenomenon in which one piece pins the other piece, either in order to get an attack, or to attack the opponent, or to get a mating attack. Basically, there are three kinds of pieces involved in a pin. First is the pinned piece. Pinned piece is a piece which is being attacked. Second is the pinning piece. Pinning piece is a piece which is doing the job of attacking a piece. Third is the back piece. Back piece is a piece which is the major cause or reason of this pin, and it stands behind the pinned piece. It is usually a major piece, which is king or queen or a rook. Pin can take place mainly in four forms. First is pin on the same file. There are 8 files, that is, we can say there are 8 columns, which are A file, B file, and like that up to H file. Second is pin on the same rank. There are 8 ranks, or you can say 8 rows, which are first rank, second rank, and up till 8th rank. Third is pin on the same diagonal, and fourth is cross pin. And there are two types of pin. First is the absolute pin, and second is the relative pin. Let us understand these two types of pin with the help of few practical examples. And don't worry, you don't need to remember all this theory. All you need to remember is the few practical examples which I will be showing in this video. But please remember that there are three rules, or I must say the golden rules, which you need to take into account for understanding the pin. First is check. To make the pin successful, you need to see the every possibility of indirect check. Second is attack or threat. You need to start attacking the opponent with the help of minor pieces at first hand, which are bishop and knight. And the third one is capture. In order to make pin successful, sometimes you need to capture few of your opponent's pieces and then launch your attack. Additionally, you could also make a pawn break to launch an attack. I will also try to give some explanation in these examples. But wait, before starting these examples, or you can say the puzzles, I request you to please pause the video as soon as a puzzle comes on your screen and try to find out how this concept of pin or how this idea is going to be applied in it by taking into account some points of this theory which has been described by me earlier in this video. Because, in my opinion, this exercise will help you to build your confidence as well as accuracy level at every point of time when you solve the puzzle. So here comes the first example on your screen. This is an example of an absolute pin. In an absolute pin, the king is a back piece. So here it's white to move. If white wants to win, then white needs to use the concept of pin on the same diagonal. So which is highlighted over here by an arrow. So it's white to play. White will simply play bishop to d4 followed by king to g8 and then bishop captures on e5 and king to f7, and here white is simply the piece up. Let's move on to the next example. This is an example of a relative pin. In a relative pin, the queen or the rook is a back piece, and here it's white to move. White will simply play bishop to c3 followed by queen to e7 in order to come out of pin, and bishop captures on e5 and queen captures on e5, and white is simply the piece up. Here, the concept of pin on the same diagonal has been used. Let's move on to the next example. Here it's white to move. Black is under an indirect attack or indirect check. So white will simply play f4, and wherever the king moves, for example if king to f7, then f cross e5, f cross e5, and white is simply the piece up. Here the concept of pin on the same file has been used. So let's move on to the next example. Here it's white to move. White queen is directly eyeing on black king. So white will capture on knight on f6 with the help of bishop. So bishop cross f6, and in order to save a mate, black will play g6 and white is simply the piece up. Here the concept of pin on the same file has been used. So let's move on to the next example. Here it's white to move. White will have to capture few of the opponent's pieces. So white will simply play knight cross g5, and if knight cross g5 here, then rook on e8 will fall. So knight has to move back on g7, knight to g7. So here rook cross e8, then rook cross e8, and rook cross e8, and knight cross e8, and white will simply play knight to f3 in order to capture the pawn on h4. Let's move on to the next example. Here it's white to move. As you can see that white bishop is directly eyeing on black king. So white will have to simply capture the pawn on g6. So queen cross g6. Now black pawn cannot capture on queen on g6. So black will have to defend its king. So he will play bishop to g7 followed by queen cross g7, and it is simply a checkmate. So let's move on to the next example. This is an example of a cross pin and it is a very good example. Here it's black to play. Black will simply play queen to f5. So now you can see that white bishop cannot capture on b7, otherwise queen on c2 will fall. So now white has to play rook to e1 followed by rook a to e8. Here rook f to e8 is also possible, and then white will play knight to c3 in order to protect the bishop on e4, followed by rook captures on e4, knight captures on e4, and then simply rook to e8. And here black is clearly a piece up. Let's move on to the next example. Here it's black to play. Black needs to launch a mating attack against the king in order to pin. So black will play queen to d5, and now white will play bishop to c4 in order to save him from a mate on h1. So now black will play rook captures on f1 check, queen captures on f1, rook captures on f1 check, followed by king captures on f1, and then black will simply play bishop to b5, and here it is a cross pin. So let's move on to the next example. Here it's white to move. White needs to use the concept of pin on the same rank, and he does this very well through the move queen to h3. So now you can see that rook cannot capture on g2, otherwise queen on f3 will fall. So now black will play rook f to g7 followed by queen to c8 check, king to h7, f cross g7, and then simply rook captures on g7. But here comes the beautiful move from white, and that is the move queen to h3 check, and simply queen captures on h3, rook captures on g7 with a check, king to h8, and then rook to g8 check, followed by king to h7, and then rook 1 to g7 check, and then king to h6, and then rook to h8 check, and here the black queen is simply lost via the move king cross g7, and then rook captures on h3. Let's move on to the final example. Here it's black to play. Black needs to use the concept of pin on the same rank as well as pin on the same diagonal. But he does this through the move d5, and that is the pawn break. So white will simply capture on d5 via the move c captures on d5 and then knight to b3, a good move. So in order to save the bishop on d2, white will simply play rook to d1 and then simply capture on d2 with the knight via the move knight captures on d2, then rook captures on d2 and then simply bishop to b4. Please note that I have used here only the main lines to make you understand the concept of pin. In the end, I would like to say that if you want to solve these puzzles or if you want to understand these concepts with the help of examples, then you must have a two-way approach. That is, you need to see the best moves of yourself as well as the best moves of your opponent. Now, you might be thinking that these are the tactics which are applied in the game, but believe it or not, these concepts, or you say it as tactics, are going to be applied throughout your entire game. That is, right from the moment when you start playing this game till it gets finished, which means from the opening game to the end game. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and please do share this video and subscribe to my channel. And you can also give your comments in the comment section given below. Hope to see you soon, and bye for now.